Okay, coronavirus and your pets. If you haven't been on Facebook in the last 5 minutes, you might not know some tigers at the Bronx Zoo were confirmed positive for COVID-19. One tiger was tested, but there's a few tigers and a few lions that all developed a dry cough after a handler was confirmed positive for COVID-19. And so they tested the tigers, and yep, that's what they have. So now everybody's freaking out, and I'm getting a bunch of Facebook messages, and hopefully this is faster than answering everybody. First, for those of you that are all upset that they're bothering to test animals when there aren't enough tests for people, calm down. This test was run at the University of Illinois Vet School. They developed their own test validated for animals. I also know IDEX Laboratories. Shout out to IDEX, woohoo. By the way, still don't have my Coggins test from last week. That'd be cool. All have their own tests they've developed independently for tests in animals. They probably, if I had to guess, because PCR is pretty darn good type of test, work in people, but they're not, FDA approved, and those laboratories aren't designed to handle human specimens, so these aren't wasting human tests. Everybody calm down. Plus, it is pretty important to know if animals are positive or not, so that we know if we need to worry about them for spreading the disease. IDEX Laboratories has been testing animals in South Korea and the US since, I believe they said, mid to early February. And I know they'd run over 4,000 tests in the first month. They've been running it on every respiratory sample, and I believe diarrhea samples being sent to them, don't quote me on that, in dogs, cats, and horses, including lots of animals from hotbed areas like Seattle and New York. And out of those 4,000 tests, they have not had a single positive domestic animal. So everybody chill out. There have been some animals that have tested positive. This actually isn't new news. Everybody was kind of trying to keep it quiet so people didn't panic. And I told you also that I always thought that was a bad idea because they're going to find out eventually, and then they're going to think you're lying. It's like lying to your kids. Don't tell them the dog ran away. Tell them you put it to sleep. Anyways, so we've known that, but it's only been, I believe, one dog in Hong Kong, one cat somewhere over there, and I think a cat in Belgium have tested positive for actually having the COVID-19 itself virus in themselves. The dog has shown no symptoms. It did pass away later, but it had completely cleared the virus, and it was a 17-year-old Pomeranian, so it's probably going to die from something. There wasn't a necropsy done, so we can't confirm what the issue was, but that was that one. To my knowledge, the adult cat that had it over somewhere, Hong Kong, China, did not show any symptoms. There was a young cat in Belgium, that potentially had it, had some symptoms, but they're kind of vague. It had some vomiting, diarrhea, a little respiratory. Obviously, cats can get a lot of that. And that cat was in a house with a person that had COVID-19. So it did test positive. It did have the virus in vomit and feces, but they're not entirely sure if that's what was causing the cat's symptoms or not. So for the most part, the theory is if your pet does contract the virus, they don't get sick. And so far, most of the data is showing the levels that they get it in are not going to be a high source of infection. Now, most of the data, unlikely source of infection. Yeah, that doesn't make me feel very good either. But keep in mind, your animals aren't going to work, most likely. They're not hanging out with a bunch of other animals at the coffee shop. They're not going to concerts. So if your dog or cat gets it, they probably got it from you. So that means you already had it, and there's no reason to freak out. So if you dump your cat at the Humane Society or your dog because you're worried about coronavirus, you're a jerk. Now, if you have other problems financially, that's a different story. I understand. We're not judging unless you're dumping them because you're stupid. Then we're judging. So yeah, as far as that goes, not a big concern. If you have coronavirus, the AVMA and the CDC are now recommending that you don't take care of your pets if at all possible. Have somebody else handle them, have somebody else feed them. Don't let them stick their tongue up your nose if you got a Chihuahua, because we all know they make a great excuse for a napkin. Things like that. but overall, not that big of a concern. Now, I could maybe make a case for free roaming cats where they could go over to somebody else's house and pick it up and then come back to your house. But again, not a lot of transmission. 4,000 IDEXX tests have all been negative. The viral loads they get, especially in adult cats, do not seem to be very high, so it's not likely they're shedding enough to get you infected. At this point, this data may change. I'm not lying to you. Nobody knows what's going on. We're just winging it. But as of right now, everybody calm down. Your cat's not going to give you the Rona. As far as contact on your pet, that has been a concern. A lot of vets are really concerned, should we be handling people's animals because they may have coronavirus on them and then we get it. AVMA's current feeling is that pet fur is so porous that if somebody hawks a loogie on their cat, that's disgusting. Don't do that. But if they sneeze and the particles get on the cat, the virus is going to be absorbed into the hair and it doesn't come off very easily. So you're not likely to pick it up from then touching their pet. Or if your dog runs through the neighborhood and somebody else coughs on your dog and it comes home, again, not likely to get it off of him because it's stuck inside the hair. Now, dog groomers might need to be a little more careful because you're clipping hair and blowing and there's fluff everywhere. If you are concerned, the current recommendation would probably be to use some sort of surfactant soap, so like Dawn dish soap. Give them a real good thorough bath, just like you're washing your hands. That should help strip a lot of particles and things off of the pet and should be pretty safe. Don't be pouring disinfectant on your animals if it's not designed for animals. You're going to kill your cats especially. They're sensitive to a lot of things. Don't use Lysol on your cats. Some brands are, or some types are okay, some aren't. Let's just not go there. Yeah, so overall, absolutely no reason to get rid of your pets. Don't freak out. Maybe don't use them as a living napkin, but besides that, everything's okay. This isn't new information. It hasn't mutated. We know it jumps from animals. Everybody's like, oh my God, this means it's jumping from humans to animals. No, that's where it came from. It went from bats into some as yet undetermined species, or maybe manufactured in a laboratory in China, but nonetheless, it came from bats to begin with. This isn't new. Everybody breathe. Carry on. Stay home. Stay safe. Talk to you later.